Good morning. Welcome to Mission Control Houston at NASA's Johnson Space Center. You're looking at the International Space Station Flight Control Room and a team of specialists who are keeping track of all of the station's systems while the Expedition 57 crew members move through the last few hours of their Friday workday on orbit. In addition to a full agenda of scientific research this week, the astronauts worked in tandem with the ground controllers to pack up a Japanese supply ship and prepare it and a special small return container that won't be burning up in the atmosphere for the end of their part of this mission.
Up until now, it's been governments that have sent people into space. And working with our NASA partners, we are on the doorstep of being able to open it up to a much greater population.
100 years ago, the average person would say, buy a ticket. I will never fly an airplane, and I will never be able to buy a ticket to go in an airplane. We might really be able to do that someday. So you can't think in today. You have to think about what's it going to be like tomorrow.
Having multiple ways to get to low Earth orbit and to get home from low Earth orbit safely is a huge step forward for all of human spaceflight.
When we first looked at the business case, it was primarily focused around NASA. And we continue to look at people who are interested in actually flying full service missions up to low Earth orbit, whether it be the space station or another destination.
Commercial industry should be allowed to thrive in the space marketplace to allow innovation in the space industry to go to the next level. We are so excited about partnering with NASA in this innovation and bringing it to the next level together.
The more that you open up those challenges and those goals to the larger, broader industry, then the better ideas you're going to get, and the more creativity that's going to be spawned from that, and the more opportunities that I think it creates for our country.
As I go out and do talks and tell people about what it was like to fly in space, and talk about how we're going to go on to the moon and Mars, but I tell them, hey, it's not going to be me. As I'm talking to classrooms of kids, I say it's going to be you guys.
We really need to inspire the next generation because they're going to be the pioneers for the future.
That's a look at what's coming up when the commercial crew program begins flying astronauts and cosmonauts to the International Space Station. The crew that's on board right now was busy this past week getting ready to send a Japanese supply ship home.
Houston Station on Space to Ground.
Welcome to Space to Ground. I'm Dan Hewitt. The crew said farewell to another cargo craft this week. After packing HTV with trash and other items for disposal and preparing the HTV small re-entry capsule, the crew closed up the hatch. Then it was over to robotics controllers on the ground to detach HTV from the station and maneuver it for release. Alex Gerst pressed the button to release HTV from the station's robotic arm, and HTV began its flight away from the station. It will re-enter the Earth's atmosphere this weekend, with the spacecraft burning up during the intense heat of re-entry. But a special project carried on HTV will be looking to survive that fiery plunge. The HTV Small Re-Entry Capsule is a small spacecraft designed by the Japanese Space Agency to return experiment samples from space, something that very few spacecraft can currently do. The crew loaded the capsule with samples from a Japanese protein crystal growth study and installed it over the hatch to the spacecraft. Before HTV begins its re-entry through the atmosphere, it will release the capsule, which survives the heat of re-entry thanks to a heat shield, and will aim for a parachute-assisted landing in the ocean, where it will await a recovery ship. Veteran NASA astronauts Eric Bowe and Sonny Williams have been getting hands-on with the spacecraft they're set to fly in, Boeing's CST-100 Starliner. The pair familiarized themselves with the control systems in a trainer for the next-generation capsule. Bowe was assigned to Starliner's first crewed flight targeted for 2019, with Williams slated to fly on Starliner's second crewed flight. To see the latest as we get closer to these first flights from Boeing and SpaceX, visit nasa.gov/commercial crew. Keep sending in your questions using the hashtag #SpaceToGround. We'll see you next week.
Crew members on the International Space Station spend a lot of their time working on science, but they also spend some time, some special attention, if you will, for students. They've created a series of videos to help future astronauts understand topics in science, technology, engineering, and math. In this installment of the STEMonstration video series, astronaut Drew Feustel discusses a developing technology that will support future spaceships traveling out into the solar system, a water recovery system that recycles crew wastewater for consumption.
Hi, I'm NASA astronaut Drew Feustel. Welcome to the International Space Station. On our station, our water recovery system is vital to our mission and our survival. Want to know why and how we recycle and filter our water? Let's go. We use water recovery and filtration because it is expensive to launch resupply missions, and the weight of the water is a problem as well. Think about the weight of a single bucket of water. Can you imagine the weight of water for a month's supply for 6 people on the International Space Station? What about the water for a year or more when we leave low Earth orbit for deeper space missions? That's a lot of water, and bringing it with us is not very efficient. On station, we recycle wastewater to get fresh drinking water. This recovery and filtration process includes our urine, moisture we exhale, and sweat, along with the water we use to bathe and shave. It works like this. When we use the bathroom, urine is collected and pumped to a distillation assembly. The assembly spins, pulling the urine to its walls. The urine is heated to evaporate water from the waste and then condensed in the outer chamber to form distillate. Next, the water is pumped to a tank where it is joined with the water recovered from cabin air created by crew sweat and respiration. Down the line from there, odors and any other contaminants are removed with heat. Then iodine is added for microbial control. Our water is checked often to ensure it meets water quality requirements. It is also monitored closely for bacteria, pollutants, and proper pH. The pH scale ranges from 0 to 14 and is a tool used by scientists to measure the strength of an acid or base. Our water is required to be in the 6.0 to 8.5 range. The end result of the entire process is clean drinking water that we get to enjoy every day. The recycled water on the space station is sterile. There's no odor or bad taste. You've seen that water recycling is critical for long-duration missions, such as here on the space station, and will be for future trips to the Moon or Mars. Be sure to check out the activity connected to this video so you can learn more about water filtration. Thanks for learning with me, and I'll see you next time.
And technology research like that is one area of concentration of the work being done on the International Space Station. Another is research into how the microgravity environment affects the human body. And then there's the science in areas like physics and biology that's taking advantage of weightlessness. For example, a new experiment in which a small device, about the size of a thumb drive, containing human cells in a 3D matrix, may help scientists learn how the cells respond to stresses, drugs, and genetic changes. The devices are known as tissue chips. And a heads up for you, this week's episode of Houston We Have a Podcast has more on the tissue chips experiment. Details on that in just a moment. Now, scientists are using the International Space Station to learn more about the physical sciences, too. For example, some researchers behind a number of experiments on the science of combustion hope that they can uncover ways to burn fuels that will produce less pollution.
The power of studying combustion on the ISS. Presented by Science at NASA. If you wanted to reduce the amount of pollution humans produce, where might you look? Here? Yep. Here? Sure. Here. Wait, what? That's exactly where scientists and researchers are looking. About 250 miles above Earth on the International Space Station. Here, astronauts are working on a series of experiments to learn more about combustion. Why combustion? Dennis Stocker, project scientist for the Advanced Combustion via Microgravity Experiments, or ACME, says, consider this. About 85% of the energy we use comes from combustion, the burning of some sort of fuel. About 70% of the electricity that we use at home and work comes from power plants that use combustion. The combustion of fuels powers the engines in many modes of transportation. Stocker continues, if we can learn more about the process, we might be able to find newer and less polluting ways to burn fuel. 3 series of combustion experiments taking place on the International Space Station's Combustion Integration Rack, or CIR, are looking at combustion in very different ways. The Flame Extinguishment Experiment, or FLEX, examined the burning of a single droplet of fuel in the microgravity confines of the ISS. The last of the droplet combustion experiments were conducted in September 2017. ACME began in November of 2017. ACME is composed of 6 major experiments, with each taking about 5 months to complete. These experiments will examine how various gases burn without gravity affecting the flames. The Solid Fuel Ignition and Extinction, or SOFI experiment, will explore the properties of burning solid matter. So why study combustion in microgravity? As Stocker explains, on the ISS you have conditions that you can't replicate on Earth. For example, consider a candle when it's burning. The flame flickers. Why? Hot gases from the flame rise, while cooler, denser air is pulled to the bottom of the flame. This flow occurs at high speeds, resulting in turbulence and instability. That instability makes it hard to study the properties of the flame. But on the ISS, there's no flicker, which allows us to make more precise and consistent measurements. If we have precise measurements, we get closer to learning how to burn more efficiently. More efficiency could lead to real cost savings for producing power. The research could also lead to reducing the production of soot and other pollutants. Combustion experiments conducted in space have contributed to practical applications on Earth, especially in the field of fire safety. A new type of fire extinguisher is just one example. And as Stocker notes, I think we're in for a few more surprises as a result of these microgravity experiments. That's because, not surprisingly, Stocker knew where to look for answers to reducing the amount of global pollution. He looked up. For more from the International Space Station, go to www.nasa.gov/station. If you're burning to learn more about other hot science topics, visit science.nasa.gov.
Flight engineer Serena Anand-Chancellor is about 6 weeks away now from the end of her first spaceflight as an astronaut. But it's not her first mission for NASA. The Indiana native, who graduated from high school in Colorado, went off to college with an eye toward working at NASA someday, and she spent almost 3 years as a NASA flight surgeon before becoming an astronaut. But did you know that she also has mismatched twin dogs, a background in martial arts, and a college baseball Jones? Here are 5 things you maybe didn't know about Expedition 57's Flight Engineer 6.
Five things that you probably didn't know about me. Probably number 1, our family has 2 dogs who really think they are brothers. And one is a 130-pound French Mastiff, named Boss Hog, and the other is a 12-pound miniature dachshund named Oscar. And they run around together, and they think they are absolute brothers and absolutely the same, but they are absolutely the heart and soul of our family. Number 2, our family absolutely loves to watch Aggie baseball. It's one of the favorite things that we do together as much as we can, certainly during baseball season in the spring. And in fact, it was the last thing we did before coming out to Russia to prepare for launch. We watched the Aggies play baseball at the University of Tennessee. Number 3, I actually do still practice medicine. I'm an active physician, and one of my favorite places to see patients is at a free clinic in Galveston, Texas, where we practice medicine for the underserved and those who can't afford medical care and do not have insurance, and that's at St. Vincent's House in Galveston, Texas. Completely student-run free clinic, but it's one of the joys. I love going there, and I love seeing my patients, and it allows me to teach medical students and residents really how to practice medicine in an underserved environment, and something I enjoy doing every week when I'm able. Number 4, my husband and I had a very non-traditional wedding on a 1,000-acre ranch, and part of our wedding reception, we actually had a rodeo event, and there was a big calf roping event that occurred, and most of our guests say they had never ever been to a wedding or a reception like that, but thought it was the best thing they'd ever been to. Final one, number 5, something many people do not know about me is that when I was getting my bachelor's degree at the George Washington University, I also needed to work to earn some money. And so I actually taught martial arts. I taught Kung Fu to school-age kids from age 5 to about 15. And I would do that 3 times a week. And that's how I earned money in college, teaching martial arts.
We've been looking at some of the videos from the recent Project Mars International Film and Art Competition. NASA participated in this event, which was designed to allow college students and early career professionals to learn about NASA's plans for Mars exploration and then create their own vision of that future. Of the 120 films submitted, 24 of them from 9 countries were sent on to a panel of judges who came from the aerospace and the film production fields. The winners were announced just a few weeks ago, and we've looked at the grand prize winning entry and one of the 3 judges prize winners. So today we're going to see the other 2 judges prize winners. First, a piece called Morning Blue.
Coming up on the 10-second mark. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. We have ignition. Commit liftoff. We have liftoff.
Clear. 12 seconds out and the roll program has commenced. Charlie, it might sound corny, but the view is really out of this world.
Now, that film was one of 120 that were entered in the recent Mars International Film and Art Competition, which encouraged young filmmakers to create their own vision of what the future of Mars exploration looks like. We have one more of the Judges' Prize winners to show you. It's called Nomadic Cloud. You can get another look at that and all the prize winners, all the 20 finalists, in fact, at the website projectmarscompetition.org. You can see all of that, learn more about the whole project. You can also see the winners in the posters competition, projectmarscompetition.org. You can also see all those finalists at the same spot you go to get another look at any of the other stories we featured today. Check us out on YouTube and on Facebook at the addresses right there. While you're there, take a look at the other cool stuff that you will find about NASA and America's human spaceflight program. And while you're out there bumping around on the interwebs, check out Houston We Have a Podcast with folks here at NASA talking about their work in all aspects of space exploration. We post new episodes on Fridays, and today Gary Jordan talks with Dr. Lucy Lowe from the National Institutes of Health about the tissue chips experiment on the space station that we told you about in one of the features earlier today. Go to nasa.gov/podcasts, where you can find today's episode and all of the Houston We Have a Podcast episodes, plus all of the different NASA podcasts. They are all there too. You can also listen to all of them on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and SoundCloud. This is Mission Control Houston.